It is Whiskey Tree Legends. Let's freaking go with head distiller, the man, the myth, the Whiskey Tree legend. Luka, what's up, brother?
Welcome to the distillery.
Welcome.
You've been really busy at the swamp lately.
I have been busy at the swamp. Yeah, we finally get to spend some time together. It only takes doing a podcast for us to spend some time together. So this is an exciting episode for two reasons. One, have a great guest, which I'll let you introduce in a little bit. But the second thing is, this is episode number 5. We may get a cease and desist letter from someone because we're using a number. So I'm going to run it through legal. We're going to give it the social media team. It's been a big thing lately. So we may have to call this either like 4.5, less than 6, like a symbol, just to stay clear. We don't have the funds for the legal representation as of yet. Maybe that's something our guests can help with. They may have some people on the crew. All right, so we're very super excited to have it. Last episode, we talked a lot about vacation. You're back. We've got a couple pours on the table. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit, but I was nosing it, and it's fantastic. And I know these are projects that we're working on. So with that being said, great episode. We got a special guest. We're going to be talking with this person. Very deep-rooted history with Mardi Gras here in the city. Great business guy in his own right. But we also have some fun projects that we've been working on. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some recent releases and what we've been doing in the market?
Vacation is clearly over. But life for me is a vacation. I will tell you.
All right.
Never know where I'm going to be. Never know what I'm going to be doing, who I'm going to be entertaining. And just so you know, this is not a habit. This is a satisfaction.
Okay.
Every time you smell it, you want to go back. And you want to go back again. A pour steady evolves.
When you do that, go back. Have you've seen that social media guy? I go back, I spit. Anyway, that's a separate conversation. We'll do that on another podcast. Keep going. I interrupted you. Let's go.
You youngsters think I stay on social media. I just got finished telling you. I don't stay on there half as much as most do. Yeah. But I will tell you, it is where I get my news.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. What do we have coming to the distillery? What we have going on in the distillery right now? Non-stop single barrels, man. Single barrels this time of year. With this heat, stuff happens really quickly. So you got to stay on top of it, man. You got to steady be working, pulling samples, moving barrels, pulling barrels. You got to understand on a finish, you got to catch it at its crest. When it's at its peak, for example, like a Calvados. Calvados is an apple brandy. You want to peak that apple out. And then you want to have people question, oh, man, I think I'm getting that cobbler, that caramelization in the corner of a pan cobbler. You want people to really, you talk about the journey that they're having on a pour. The only way you're going to achieve that is staying on top of it. This time of year in New Orleans, it's hot. It's really hot. Things are happening fast. Pressure is building in these barrels to where it's driving that juice so deep into that wood. When it comes back out, it's changing the profile each time. So, yeah. Rum finish, baby.
Rum finish. And why was rum? Look, I say we, this is 100% my responsibility. I dropped the ball. We had a Louisiana rum day specific to Louisiana rum. And we did a last minute distillery release. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's Whiskey Tree Bourbon, rum finish.
Yeah.
Well, what is the rum finish? It's the Black Pearl rum. If you've never had Black Pearl rum before, we offer on the market our silver rum, but we also have, which is, by the way, Louisiana molasses, Louisiana raw sugars, and we also finish it in a barrel. Notice it's not barrel aged, it's barrel finished. We have to be careful with the way we say things, the way we describe things. But in this heat, like I said, things happen rapidly. It's where rum's supposed to be made. And that barrel age is yo-ho, baby. It's what it's about. It's what it's about. It brings you back to think of the Caribbean style type rum that's made in Louisiana. What goes on in the Caribbean? What goes on in those islands down there? A whole lot of sugarcane. All those barrels. We talk about barrels coming downriver from Kentucky in bourbon world. Those barrels are coming upriver from the Caribbean in the rum world.
Yeah. And look, Louisiana has specifically designated August 22nd every year, or kind of around that time, but that's the day they designated it. And Look, we take a lot of pride in terms of what we produce here in Louisiana. We talk about the Mississippi River Delta and how it contributes to the soil, which leads to the greatest crops in the region, if not the world. And having a specific rum that's grown or made in Louisiana with sugarcane that's grown here, that is something we should all take pride in the state. Now we have, to your credit and the team's credit, we have a Louisiana bourbon that's crafted here, aged or finished in a barrel that is a Louisiana rum. And I don't think that happens anywhere else in the entire world. There's obviously other rum finishes, but I think it's something that's very different, very unique, and something that is extremely sought after. As a matter of fact, because I dropped the ball and didn't give members a heads up, which, by the way, members, we set aside a bunch of cases because we do have another release this month that we'll talk about at the end. But they were actively reaching out to us on social media and emails and calls like, hey, what's with the rum? What's with the rum finish? Is that really ready for sale, kind of a thing? So kudos to you, because this is not the first rum finish we've done, but you can tell that it's building. So well done.
You remember the first rum finish that we released in
I-
distillery? We couldn't keep that stuff on the
It
barrel.
flew.
You know,
And that was honestly one of my favorite ones. I love the rum finish. There's other brands that do rum finish, but this one to me was very unique and different. It's all the same qualities that you mentioned about how it gets to that point.
I had some Bourbon Club members from Southwest Louisiana earlier this week, coming in here, just tasting through, and they were so excited about the rum. They were so excited about creating a finish, and they had all kind of ideas. Remember, everybody's looking for something new to bring to a party. For us, it ain't all about the flavor. It's about the flavor, it's about the mouthfeel, and that creates the experience. You got to have all three. At the end of the day, we're not creating anything that's just palatable. We're creating something that's enjoyable. That's the only way to please the Louisiana market, the most sophisticated palate in the world.
Amen. And look, let's be real. As we kind of wrap up this first segment, it's not even the Louisiana market anymore. You've got people reaching out for single barrels from Chicago, Texas. I think we had one internationally at one point. Like, I think as we roll in September's National Bourbon Month, as we roll into October, November, and December, when the temperatures drop, like the demand for our single barrels specifically, but all of our bourbon is just through the roof. So tell me, what does that feel like?
Feels amazing.
Yeah.
When you're on the phone and you have 37,000 views in an hour and a half, off of a distillery tour, back up north, it ain't even cold yet. And then people spending that much time on social media. I don't know where they find the time at.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're very grateful for it. They come down, they visit the distillery, they taste through what we have. Most importantly, they feel the experience and they want to take it back home with them. That's all we ask, right?
Absolutely. Anything else at the distillery that you can think of that might be pressing? I know I want to talk about the newest release this month. We teased it last episode. I teased it in an email to our members. It'll be released on social media, so let's not talk about that yet. Anything else we want to talk about locally coming up? Anything that you can think of?
Rum, and more rum. Producing more rum here in the facility, putting it up in barrels and filling it with bottles, filling our bottles with it.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's do a quick tease about our guest that's going to be joining us. Somebody that you met in the market, Kane, was very interested in what we were doing here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Adam?
His name is King Adam Lambert. At the wildest and craziest carnival crew in the city of New Orleans, in my opinion, the Krewe of Tucks. He came in here one Saturday morning with his group that we were their bourbon panel, okay, and they came in, and it was compiled of surgeons, baby doctors, just lawyers, and they came in. And when you come in and do a barrel pick with me, it's about leaving knowing more than when you came. It's not about what you know. It's about the experience that you have and picking something that's gonna match up well with the client, right? Who's their client? A crew full of alcoholics, right? I mean, say
That's
I'm
good.
wrong.
Hey,
I
no,
don't know if
that's
he
the
would
way it
disagree
is.
with me, but let's
That's
say
a badge
at
of
least
honor in this case.
at
yeah.
least during Mardi Gras
They're in
time.
Mardi Gras.
So when
absolutely.
we bring in a guest on, we've
He'll have a chance to defend that if we need to. So.
That's right. I can see he ain't worried about that.
He ain't worried about that.
That man's worried about one thing, and it's a good time.
It's a good time.
That's
So,
all it's about.
well, look, we just talked to him about, kind of caught up with him beforehand. Very excited to talk to him. He is the king of Tucks right now. He does have a real job. We talked a little bit about that. So we're going to learn anything and everything about the current king of Tucks. And as he said, once you're the king once, you're the king forever.
That's right.
Amen. So, all right, when we come back, we'll have Adam Lambert here. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back to Whiskey Tree Legends. We have a very special guest that we've already talked about, and I'm going to turn it over to the Whiskey Tree Legend himself to do the formal introduction. Go ahead, bud.
I got to tell you, Joe, most cities think of royalty as their political leaders or whatever. We look at our Carnival cruise.
Amen.
And I'm going to formally welcome to Whiskey Tree Legends the king of Tucks, Adam Lambert.
Welcome, Adam.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you. Listen, if you ever want to call me on a weekday and tell me to come down and drink whiskey in the middle of the afternoon, you just call me. Okay?
Perfect.
We don't even have to plan for anything. This
Yeah.
is fantastic. Thank you for having me.
The guest list is long, but we always like people who enjoy drinking bourbon with us in the middle of the day. It's a good excuse for us to tell Jeff that we need to have some bourbon in the middle of the day. So what are we drinking, by the way, Luka?
Welcome to our day. This is what we do. Sometimes it starts at 9 a.m. Sometimes it starts later in the afternoon, but we're always sipping.
Always.
Usually it's good to be king, but right now it's good to be you guys.
That's right.
It's good to be the distiller, and I get to tag along the way
Yeah.
every so often. So
That's why I made that comment earlier. I was like, you know what? Vacation is clearly over. There is a change, but life is a vacation.
Yeah,
it's how you treat it.
rough times coming back.
What we have
Sorry.
What we have in front of us right now is obviously the whiskey tree. It's the whiskey tree bourbon, but it is the Louisiana Acadiana Steens finish. Okay. What does that do? Does it sweeten it up? I'm not going to say it sweetens it up. It does give a creative mouthfeel. Most importantly, it brings you back, just like a finish should do. Back, if you grew up eating stains on your biscuits at Grandpa's Hunting Club or whatever, you're going to pick it up in a very nuanced way that just brings you back to a place that makes you remember. You might not be able to pinpoint what it is, but that's truly the journey of what a finish should be. This is Whiskey Tree Bourbon Steens finish.
That's fantastic.
So enjoy while we talk. I want to ask you, what is your go-to anyway? Is it cocktails? Is it a whiskey? Is it a bourbon, scotch? What is it?
So as you earlier defined the Krewe of Tucks as a bunch of alcoholics, I'm going to say all of the above.
Nailed it.
But
well done.
Well, so do you know the motto of the Krewe of Tucks?
No.
Booze, beer, bourbon, and broads. So the 4 B's. So we've got the booze
Yeah.
here. We've got the bourbon
Yep.
here. We just don't have the beer.
Yeah.
And Tucks usually supplies the broads. So
There we go.
yeah,
Love
booze,
it.
beer, bourbon, broad. So all of the above. I'm a big bourbon drinker. Love bourbon, and of course we've done all those tastings here with you guys, and we'll continue to do them. They're fantastic.
Very good.
At the end of the day, we might not have beer, but we do have some cool barrels of our whiskey tree barrels sitting at Abita.
Okay.
At that,
Yep.
in their pale ale, not pale ale, pecan ale.
Yep.
And that has in the past did some cool finishes for us that people's been after. So look,
Is that a tease?
it might be.
Okay,
It might
all right,
be.
fair
I have
enough.
some people asking about it right now.
There are.
Tell us about what you do, brother. What you do in the city of New Orleans when you're not Carnival and when it's not Carnival season. I know you're an entrepreneur. I know you in the business world, but talk a little bit about it.
So I am in the antiques space, generally speaking. We have an auction house called Crescent City Auction Gallery on St. Charles Avenue. We have a consignment store called Consign on Magazine Street. And then our latest project, which is shared dealer space for antique dealers, is called the Bellflower, and that is also on St. Charles Avenue. And then we also have several other real estate projects that we kind of manage in and out of the antique space as well.
That's totally New Orleans.
It is. Well, specifically the antique stuff. People are very passionate about that here.
You know, I'll tell you, when he talks about auctioneer,
Mhm.
you know, I went to one of the events. I'm like, I come help you push some of the barrels. Some of the bottles of the barrel that you
Yeah.
purchased to all the crew members. And damn, we sold every bottle. And you came up asking for a specific bottle. I'm like, hell, I don't know. I wasn't in charge. I was just here selling. We sold all the bottles, including the one that we were going to auction off. So he had to buy back a bottle from somebody who had bought it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like,
That's the first time I've heard this story.
I'm like, bro, so what am I doing? Am I auctioning this off? He's like, no, sir. That's my wheelhouse. And man, you ought to see this man at work.
So look, we were doing all this for charity. We're raising money for the Tucks Charitable Foundation. And we were selling all the bottles, and we accidentally sold the last bottle that we were going to sell. So we got the last bottle back, and then we started to auction it. Luke and I got up there. I was doing the calling, and Luke was helping me do the spotting. And Lucas said, hold on 1 second. I'm shutting this down. We got to about $450 or something like that for the last bottle. Bottles were retailing for $80, $100 or for charity. And Lucas says, I'm going to throw in a tour and a tasting. So all of a sudden it shot up to $750, $850, something like that. So we raised $850 on that last bottle. All went back to the Tucks Charitable Foundation, and it was just.
So let me ask a question though, because I know the feeling. How was it like you're in the zone, you're doing this, you're doing your spiel kind of a thing, and then all of a sudden Luke is like, all right, stop. Did he give you any forewarning he was going to do that?
No,
Of course not.
No.
And I love him like a brother.
Yeah.
I mean, we just had one yesterday. He and I are about to walk into a meeting, and I get a curveball like, hey, why don't we do this? And then Jeff walks away, Luca smiles at me, we go into the meeting. But it ended up working out. And that's the one thing about Luca. Like, he knows how to make sure that we take care of our customers and look at raise some extra money for charity. So that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys donated the tour and the tasting and everything. And the group that did it had such a great time that they'd come back over and over again. And they'd probably spent 4 or 5 times what they paid for the tour. So I mean, it's just a
If
great
there's
partnership.
anything I could say about the community in New Orleans, Southern Louisiana in general, when you have a cause that people believe in, they step up.
Yeah.
You know, and when I say, whoa, hold up a second, Adam, and I introduce that, it's a whole different dynamic. Wait a minute. And they start tuning in. Next thing you know, it starts coming up. And listen, they get more than what they signed up for. That's what it's about, you know? It's a great time.
Yeah.
Was that your first business venture in New Orleans?
Professionally, yes. So I came back to New Orleans in 2008. I went to graduate school in Honolulu, Hawaii, and got my MBA there, and watched Katrina roll in from a bar at 2 in the morning because of the time change. And ever since Katrina happened, I felt the need to come back and help rebuild the city that I was raised in and born in. And so I moved back in 2008, and I started this company. We were very small back then. And we've grown over the last 18 years. And since then, we've started other ventures. But people don't realize that the auction market in Louisiana, especially in New Orleans for antiques, is probably the largest in the South. The closest you can get to it is about Philadelphia, or Dallas has one auction company that's pretty big. But the French came in, and they would bring their whole chateaus in the 1700s, and they would land on the docks, and they would have to move into their house in the French Quarter, and they couldn't fit everything. So they would auction their stuff right on the docks right there before America was America. You know, you're talking about that long ago. And so the history of auctioning in this city specifically is deeper than almost any other city. And, you know, they sold cotton here, they sold furniture, they sold all sorts of things throughout time. And so you're talking about hundreds of years of auction history. And then the antiques market in New Orleans alone is several $100 million a year. That's in Orleans Parish. Several $100 million a year. That's well overlooked. But there's hundreds of millions of dollars of antiques passing through Orleans Parish annually. And people just don't realize that. They don't realize it.
And that's all from, and actually you kind of, you beat me to the question that I had, which is kind of how did it become this big market? I'm born and raised here, which almost all of us are. I've never heard that story before and had no idea. That's the most intriguing thing. And that was the foundation to lay in terms of where we are today. Like, it just stayed here and it became part of the fabric of New Orleans.
New Orleans, and y'all know this, is a melting pot almost for everything. So it was a port city. So people came here for everything. So The cotton farmers from Mississippi would come down, they'd sell their cotton, they'd buy antiques or they would buy furniture here, sometimes at auction, sometimes not. They'd auction the cotton and then they would bring it back up. So this was always the mecca for finer items and where a lot of the commerce was. You talk about right on Canal Street right here. And yeah, so it was just historically a bigger market. Now, if you look at a city like New York, where their auction market is billions, it's because they have more money and also a similar infrastructure for the auction market where the auction industry has been around for hundreds of years. Other than that, you look at London and the auction industry has been there for 500 years, and it's kind of the same difference.
That's unique in itself. And man, when you listen to somebody like this talk about something that you don't know anything about, I think of a car auction. When you talk about antiques and things like that, it brings it to a whole nother level. My next question is, do you think that being an entrepreneur in New Orleans requires something different, uh, something special? This is special in its own regard, much less just being an entrepreneur, period.
Yeah, I mean, tough skin, sometimes in New Orleans. New Orleans isn't always the best business climate. And I know I probably won't get in trouble for that because everybody knows it.
Yep.
But it's not always the best for permitting and trying to get things done. And,
Yeah.
everybody's laughing at this table, and I'm
We
sure
know,
everybody
yeah.
watching out there is laughing too, but it's no secret. And so you have to, those are challenges. When I worked as an auctioneer in Honolulu, I, it was a much different kind of business strategy than what we have here, but it feels like a lot of times we play defense rather than offense for a lot of things. And then if an event happens, so like a COVID or hurricane where we lose power for 2 weeks or something like that, then it's a big shift, and it's a big challenge usually. And those are challenges you won't see elsewhere.
And look, this is all very interesting and unique. Specifically, some other like maybe my grandparents were big into antiques, and they would go to different auctions and thrift shops and stuff like that. How did you get into this business? Like, is it a family thing? Because I remember going to my high school counselor, and auctioneer and antiquities were not part of the
Like
conversation.
being a distiller.
By being a distiller,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. So, like, how did you find yourself in this venture?
Osmosis. Yeah.
Osmosis,
My,
all
my,
right.
uh, my father was in the
Love it.
business. And I grew up above my dad's antique store on Magazine Street. And so he moved there when I was 1. And so from the time I was 1 years old to 18, I lived above his antique store. We traveled to England 5 to 12 times a year to buy containers and ship them back. And so we were shipping containers actively. He'd pull me out of public school in New Orleans Parish and run to England for a week and then fill up a container and come back.
Wow.
And then he was also involved heavily in the auction business with several auction companies. And so I grew up in the auction business too. I used to take the RTA bus from school on Broadway straight down Magazine Street to the auction house my dad was working, and I would do my homework on the floor of the auction house there. And he would go give me Popeyes from across the street, and I would stay there.
Of
and then
course.
I'd fall asleep on an antique sofa while he was still working, and I would wake up in my bed the next day to go back to school. But that was my childhood growing up. Really heavily entrenched in antiques and auction culture of New Orleans.
I say this all the time. The best education ain't always found in the schoolhouse.
Yep.
But people tend to glamorize entrepreneurship. Tell me just a bit of what you experience being an entrepreneur in New Orleans that people have no idea happens, like the tough part of entrepreneurship.
The sugar-coated part of entrepreneurship, I think a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to be my own boss and set my own schedule. And I do. My schedule just happens to be about 5:30 a.m. to 9:30 at night every day with no days off on the weekends. You know what I mean? And I know you guys work crazy schedules too.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we don't have like an off switch. And, one thing I learned very early doing what I do is that the customer not necessarily isn't always right, but you don't always have to bend to the customer. You have to stay focused on your mission and you stay focused on the staff and the goals of the corporation, the company. And if somebody gets in the way of that, you either have to figure out a way around it or you can't sugarcoat that either. But the two biggest challenges, are always time, you never have enough time, and then the ability to just stay focused and not let the bad parts encompass the good parts of what you do.
I'm sure you get a lot of opportunities. How do you figure out which one is worth pursuing and which one isn't?
That's
Yeah.
a great question. Sometimes you don't always know, and people do make mistakes. I try to focus pretty hard when something jumps in front of me, and I say, all right, well, let's look at this. And, I do have a business degree, and I try to break it down as, statistically as possible, and, don't take any guesses, no blind shots. But not everything works. And there's some things that I've done that I've spent a bunch of money on and they did okay. And there's some things that we've done that haven't done great. And there's some things that we've done that have done gangbusters. So, the shotgun method works. I hit a couple of ducks, but maybe not all of them.
That's awesome. Look, I think, hearing your story and how you got into it and the pride that you had in the city in coming back here, and supporting the region, we feel a lot of that as well in terms of, we talk about all the time supporting local. Obviously you've supported 7-3 Distilling, the Whiskey Tree, in terms of personally and then professionally with Tucks. What does that mean for you? Like, what does it mean to you that as a local entrepreneur who's built themselves, from a family business, supporting another local brand such as us, what does that mean for you in terms of why you do it?
Look, we're all each other have,
Yeah, that's right.
and I say that, and
Cheers to that.
I was being a little silly, but
Yeah.
Amen.
there's a lot of truth to that, right? So the local businesses in the New Orleans community rallies around corporations, local companies, better than any other community that I've seen. And we care for our own, and we respect the companies that have been here for 50 years, 100 years, and the ones that have fought through the hard times. And I think that's what really binds the business community, because I lost power for 2 weeks during that hurricane when you did. I, had to deal with that mayor when you did,
Yeah.
and so we're all bound by these similar hardships. And so if I can support you and you can support me and you can support Tux and Tux can support y'all, it's better for everybody. Rising tides float all boats.
Amen. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And look, you've been a great support to us as well. And I mean, this story of and learning how you got to where you are in the business and the history of the business in New Orleans, like I think that's very impactful. And we're a big believer in supporting local organizations as well. To your point, community matters. So great story. And really, you should be very proud of where you and your family have gotten to. So thank you very much for that. Well done. Now, there is some fun stuff along the way that hopefully you've gotten, and we've talked about Tux and that organization, and we kind of want to lean into that. But like, how did you even get started with Tux? Like, how did you get your entry point into that?
Right.
All right. So I already told you, my dad's antique store was on Magazine Street. We're a block off Napoleon Avenue. We lived above the antique store. And from the age of 7, 8, or 9 back in the 80s, there was one parade that my dad would let me just leave the house and go to, and he didn't have to worry about me, and I would just come back. And that was the Krewe of Tucks. And I would never forget this. I came back one day, I might have been 9 years old. Came back one day with 3 or 4 bags full of stuff, which never happened back
Right.
then. 3 or 4 bags full of stuff, and a pair of Krewe of Tucks underwear on my head. And my dad was like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Check this out." And there was a squirting toilet and it shot water right on him. And, since then, Tux has been really my favorite parade. It's such a little boys parade, at times. And of course, it's changed a lot, but it was always such a great parade for me growing up in the 80s that I moved back to New Orleans in 08. I was doing a charity auction for WYES. And a lawyer there came up to me and he said, "Hey, have you ever ridden in a Mardi Gras parade?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You want to ride in the Krewe of Tucks with us?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And I rode once. I rode alone. And then the next year I brought 3 friends. Then the next year after that, I brought 10 friends. And then said, "Hey, do you want to float? We'll make you a captain." And so then all of a sudden I had 30 riders. This year I'm at 150 riders and 3 floats.
Wow. And that's you bringing those people in.
That's just my
Wow.
group. Yeah.
When you come down and experience New Orleans as a tourist for Mardi Gras, it's Carnival. It's a parade. even as a local, you tend to lose sight of what a carnival means. Every carnival has its own story. And each year they have their own story, I should say, their own title for that year, their own thing that they want you to discover as a journey, just like making an experience, a bourbon in a bottle. Experience the bourbon in the bottle. Being king of Tucks, what does that mean to you?
It, I mean, it kind of means everything as far as being a member. And Tux is not just a parade that I ride in, one day a year. It's a lifestyle, really.
And I have to say, I didn't realize that until I started working closely with these guys, just how complex it is
yeah,
and what goes into
it's
on an annual.
it's a year-long thing. And we've got the floats for the next 3 years kind of figured out, and the themes and all that stuff. But yeah, it's you work on it year round. When I became a captain, I got involved in committees, and the Krewe of Tucks grew very quickly. When I became a captain, we were 750 riders. Today, we're 2,800 riders.
Jeez.
So as we grew, we needed to do more things, and we needed, more committees and more departments and all that stuff. And I found myself on a lot of those committees, eventually ending up on the board and then the charitable foundation board. But growing with Tux, it's been fantastic because I get to see, this thing that I'm so excited to be in and it's so grateful to be a part of blossom just like this. When I heard you talking earlier about where were they from Canada asking for a barrel,
Yeah.
right? When somebody from Canada reaches out, you're like, how'd you guys find us? That's awesome.
Somebody posted a bottle of whiskey tree on the back bar in Japan the other day, and then a gentleman from Switzerland just inquired about a barrel of whiskey tree.
Yeah.
That's
insane.
exciting.
It's insane.
Right.
Like, I can't even fathom that. And it's like, to your point, it's
But y'all being here every day, working so hard to make this thing great, and then you see something like that, it's fantastic. And it's the same thing with Tux. We've been working all these years to make it better and better, and it's gotten better and better. We're 2,800 riders. It's co-ed, it's husbands and wives. It's, groups of girls, it's groups of guys. It's a fantastic, fun-loving, great group of people who just happen to really enjoy bourbon.
yeah, that's a good
That ain't
thing.
no lie.
We'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They absolutely do.
Y'all throw toilet paper. Y'all throw water shooting toilets.
Yeah.
You throw toilet bowl glasses,
Plungers. Yeah.
that people spend weeks decorating.
Yeah.
To make sure the experience is had. You think there's anything that people come to New Orleans that it's kind of misunderstood for Mardi Gras?
I think a lot of people think that Mardi Gras just happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the biggest misconception. These people, even from maybe like Mississippi, they come in and Mardi Gras just happens. There are even people who ride in different crews that just show up and they ride for that day and they throw their stuff and then they leave. They get back on a flight and they go back to wherever they came from. I mean, Mardi Gras takes all year. It takes the city. It takes the Kerns. It takes millions and millions of dollars. I mean, I think people just don't quite fathom the amount of money that it takes. And it's the largest free show on earth, but it's funded by us, by the riders, by the citizens.
Yep. Sure.
The city pays for the police, and I know all that's been in the news lately, but the riders foot the bill to build the floats, to buy the throws, to throw it to the people. It's really on them. And so, I mean, it's a big kudos to the thousands and thousands of riders.
It's so good that you talk. Sorry, Joe.
No, go.
It's so good that you talk about these things because people truly don't understand what it takes to put on a show with such a grand scale. At the end of the day, though, what it takes to put that together and who funds it is everything. It's free. When you talk about Tux, what do you think makes y'all stand out as a crew? What is different about Tux than every other crew? Because we've got some amazing parades in New Orleans, but Tux truly stands out in many ways.
I started a phrase probably 15 years ago called "ride the party."
Oh,
And
Wow. That's a good one.
the reason I said "ride the party" is because Tux is a rolling frat party down St. Charles.
Sure. 100, and y'all own it and love it.
We own it. We love it. We are a rolling fraternity party. And all the floats have DJs on them. Most of them do. And we're just dancing. We don't need the crowds to show up. We would be partying on those floats if no one was out there. And that's from our roots. So in 1969, 3 members from a fraternity in Loyola went to be flambeau carriers.
Mhm.
And they were told they couldn't be flambeau carriers because they were white. And so they said, well, we're going to go start our own club. So they went back to Loyola, and they actually went to a bar that night, and they decided that they were going to be the Krewe of Tucks. They were Friar Tuck's bar. And they got everybody together in the fraternity. And so it really was kind of this like fraternity party rolling through Uptown, pulling boats. There were guys passed out on horses.
I believe all this.
And all of that
100%.
is true. And it's stuck with us throughout these years. So we're still a fraternity party. We believe heavily on inclusivity because we're started, by not being included.
Right.
And so it's guys, girls, it's all races, it's all creeds. And we love the group that we have. We have one request, and that's that you enjoy the party.
That's right.
And that's hard not to do because as someone who's been on the opposite side of the float, like if you catch something, it's only bonus. Like it is an absolute roll. And the rolling frat party is probably the best thing. Look, you were mentioning the financial investment, the time investment. What I hear is just passion. And we talk a lot about this inside the bourbon world, to the passion that you have to dedicate yourself and do all these types of things. You mentioned like you started as a single writer, then got a couple. Now you have 150 people that are part of your kind of like entry into Tucks. When we first met you, you weren't even king yet, right? We were just coming here. We were working on a charitable barrel and how we could work together. And then all of a sudden, I remember Luka came, he's like, you're never going to believe what just happened. And you were nominated and obviously voted or however that works, and that's a testament, not only to, what you've done in terms of that organization, but who you are. So how do you even become king? Like, how does that happen? Or does that mean you're the king of the frats? Like,
So
maybe there's some stories we shouldn't tell on a podcast, but I want to know how you get to that
there's
point.
dozens of stories I shouldn't say on a
All right,
podcast. Or else
Don't worry, there's only like 18 people that watch.
They'll
So.
steal my crown. They'll take it back. But I'll tell you a couple of fun ones. So I was the head of the beer committee. So we do a beer. Tux does a beer internally. And then we're booze, beer, bourbon, and broads. We said, all right, well, it's time to do a bourbon kind of right after that. And so we've done a bourbon with other companies throughout the years, over the last 4 or 5 years. And then we got hooked up, the 3 of us. And so I talked to Luke, and I said, Luke, we really want to come down. And Luca said, well, these are kind of the days that we have available for y'all to come down.
Yeah.
And so the only day,
typical Luka fashion.
the only day that we could make it, that I could come and I could bring this bourbon committee with me that I've met with every year for the last 3 or 4 years, was the morning of the captain's dinner where they announced the king and queen. So I've got all these people here drinking bourbon at 8 a.m. Like they show up with coffee. Some of them are still sleeping. A couple of them are still drunk from the night before.
Surgeons, lawyers,
Yeah.
whatever.
No, we've got 2 doctors on
The cream of the crop in the
know.
city, yeah.
And so they show up and like, I'm like, listen, y'all, we're going to have to drink, 10 or so samples. And so the first
They
have to. No, we have to. It's,
yeah, of course.
It's
part of the club.
It's for the crew,
Yeah. It's for a charitable cause.
Look, and I do everything I can for the crew. And
Of
so that
course.
was one of the things.
Sacrifices have to be had.
Exactly. So after it was
I
about
love
8
it.
o'clock, by about 8:15, Luca's halfway through his spiel and we've had 5 or 6.
8:15.
By about 8:30, all of them are ready just to start hanging out and drinking. They're like, all right, let's go. Like
The environment has been softened.
LSU was playing later that day. They said, all right, look, we'll just go find a bar somewhere after this. Let's just go straight from here to the bar. And we couldn't do that. So I went that night, and when they announced me, and Luca gave me 2 bottles of hooch to take with me.
You signed those out?
The upcoming samples, right? And so right before they got bottled, and so I took them and I poured a couple of samples for some of the captains, some of the head guys up there, and they said, man, this stuff is amazing. It never had anything like it. And so then shortly thereafter during dinner, they announced me as king. And I went up there and I explained all the sacrifices I'd been making by drinking bourbon since 8 a.m. for the Krewe of Tucks.
All I heard in the story was we helped influence his kingdom. So you're welcome. No,
In
just
in
joking.
true Louisiana fashion, bourbon has been influencing things for
Forever.
forever.
All right. Well, we're just happy to be a small part of it. Probably had nothing to do with it, but we like to insert ourselves.
I
so-
gotta ask a question, and I'm hoping I'm not crossing the line.
Oh
Adam.
God! Usually when you put that caveat, we're crossing a line.
I
but
mean,
let's
at the
get it.
end of
We
the
can add it.
day, when you hear the history of Tucks and all of that, and how 3 guys went over there and was asking, I want to be a flambeau carrier, and they said no because you're white. They're like, no big deal. I respect that. And then they started something else. Well, at the end of the day, people come down and experience Carnival, and they're like, why do we have all of these crews, all these walking crews? Where they all start? Well, because you know what? Somebody was creative and they started their own thing.
Mhm.
But the question is, one thing that you think that stands out is the wildest thing that you've ever experienced riding with Tucks? Because in my opinion, I think that Tucks is probably the wildest crew out there.
It's wild.
What do you think is the wildest experience you've ever experienced?
I don't put me on the spot or anything here.
That's what we do, Adam.
Yeah. That's hard to say. You're talking about parade day stuff?
Grab that glass right there first. And I want to raise it because this right here
I feel
is
like I'm
another
drinking-
whiskey tree, but it's the Calvados finish. Be paying attention to the apple.
Y'all were talking more, so I kind of finished some of the bourbon already.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. All right. Well, that's going to get me to open up a good
There we
one.
go. Luka set you up on that one.
A good one. Yeah, I definitely set up. So this was the first year I was captain. So you're talking about, I guess, 16 years ago or so. And I was on a 3-tiered float. And so there's the top, there's the mezzanine, and then there's the bottom level down here. I'm the top rider, very front, and I'm with my co-captain riding next to me. We're all tethered in, as you're supposed to be. And there are 3 girls on the back that I'd never met before. They were friends of friends, and they got assigned to my very first float, 28 people. I was so excited to have 28 riders. And they finished 3 bottles of champagne before we started moving. Okay. And so I look over, and they've got the glass bottles of champagne. And I'm like, you can't have glass on a float. You got to put them somewhere, So I saw them put them in a bag. So we're riding, and they're throwing stuff. And we get to Lee Circle. We stop kind of around Lee Circle while the king and the queen toast the mayor.
Right.
One of the girls had been very, very inebriated and sitting down a bunch, standing up a little bit, throwing stuff, sitting down again. So she's leaning over the side of this float that is a very low mezzanine, and it's hitting them like her right about mid-knee. And so the state trooper kind of runs up to her and says, "Step back." And so she like backs up real quick. And so when she backs up, she steps on the champagne bottle and cartoon flips upside down and lands on her back. So the state trooper says, "You got to get off the float. Get off the float right now." And so they start yelling for the captain. This is my first year as captain. Captain, captain. So I look over and I see the state trooper almost physically trying to pull her off her float. So I run as fast as I can, position number 1, to the back of the float to go talk to this trooper, and just very nervous about the situation, not necessarily inebriated.
Yeah.
And get to the top step to go down the steps on the back mez, and I realize that I'm tethered in still. The rope tightens, flips all 5 of the guys standing from position 2 to 5 backwards,
So good.
upside down. I'm now dangling off the back of the float by my tether, and just then we start moving down Lee Circle,
course.
and the trooper looks at it. I said, "Thank you, officer. You're doing a great job." And just then I got my tether loose and I dropped to the mezzanine like a rock. And we just kept going all the way to Canal Street. And I stood up and I looked at the girl and I said, "Sit down. Don't get up till we get to Canal Street." She and I are best friends to this day, and she rides every year. She rode on the King's Float with me this year.
That's so good.
But yeah,
That is
that's a true
the
story.
epitome of a great time right there.
Yeah.
So glad everybody was safe. Look, we got one more question for you, and then we got some rapid fire back and forth. But what do you see from a Tux perspective, from you as the current king? What do you hope for? What do you want from Tux and both you directly and as an organization in the next 10 years?
So as an organization, we have done a lot of things well. We're a lot of lawyers, we're a lot of businessmen. So we own our den. We did a den expansion. We own our floats. All of this has been done so that we can continue.
Very nice expansion, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You've been there. It's huge. We've welcomed people to our massive erection, and it's full of floats. But the thing that we're doing there is we're really trying to make it so that Tucks was self-sustainable. 20 years ago, everything was rented. Now we've got the ability to raise more funds. So what we did is, I guess it was 7 or 8 years ago, we started a charitable arm, the Tucks Charitable Foundation. And so now we're able to take any excess money that we have and put it in the charitable arm, and then we give it all away. And so we just completed a little over $250,000 to Manning's Family Children's Hospital. We just did that this year. We're sending a lot of money to Magnolia House. We're fundraising with partners like you guys. And so I think really that is the future. That's the future, certainly for me, as King and being on the board of both Charitable Foundation and Tucks. But I would really like to see some of the plans we have where we're going to give it all back. Years and years ago, we gave the money to national charities. We decided, our big captain Woodfish Hertz said, no, listen, we're going to keep it all local. We're a local organization. So Magnolia School is going to receive a lot of money moving forward. We're talking to groups like ARC of Greater New Orleans. And again, Children's Hospital just received a very big gift from us. There's the Tucks Sensory Room.
Oh, wow.
Go figure,
Yeah. We talked about this.
Yeah.
That's
The
awesome.
Tucks Sensory Room?
Yeah.
It's Tucks
Sounds
Sensory
like we
Room.
need to go do a blend in there.
I think it's a different kind of sensory.
Oh,
room.
okay.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
different
off
sensory.
camera. So
Yeah.
Okay.
it's a cool thing. So, well, look, before I turn it over to Luka to ask some rapid fire questions and then kind of wrap it up, on behalf of the entire distillery, we're still growing and we want to be involved in as many charitable causes as possible. We're kind of alluding to the same thing where supporting each other, supporting great organizations such as yourself. So when we're able to do these types of barrels, help raise funds for both of our organizations on our behalf, but obviously in your organization, it means a lot to us. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of the distillery team for everything, for having trust and faith in us and the barrels. It sounds like it definitely was well received, and we appreciate it, and we look forward to continuing that tradition moving forward.
We're absolutely coming back. We're engaging right now in our second barrel for next year, and we'll do another release directly with you guys, which y'all are the first group that we've done a second barrel with in consecutive years or ever. We've always hopped around from different distilleries, and we enjoyed the bourbon last year so much, and there was such a demand for it that
It's great.
we said we're coming back.
Well, I look forward to this barrel tasting because we've got to step it up.
Yeah.
You've got your panel picked out?
It's a very similar panel. It's you'd be surprised at the waiting list to get on.
He's
the
going to
boat
be
today.
back-to-back king. Wait.
Yeah.
So,
I'll
just make sure you're not tethered to the float when you come. So we'll
Yeah.
make it seamless. Awesome.
Good
All right,
stuff.
Luka, give him the rapid fire question.
Rapid fire. You ready for this?
I think so. Do I need more bourbon?
There's that answer is always yes for that, Adam. But
Bourbon and rum.
Bourbon.
Old fashioned or daiquiri?
Old fashioned. I will say though, I was at a party on Friday where it was Cuban themed, and they have the original daiquiri, and those are fantastic.
Yeah, that ain't
Yeah,
no
yeah, yeah.
lie.
I mean, they're so good.
You got to try that. Rocks are neat.
Neat. I'm going old fashioned. I'm going up martinis.
Day drinking and night drinking.
Both.
Jazz Fest or Mardi Gras?
attaboy. Good answer. Tux is
Jazz
gonna be
Fest or Mardi Gras?
so good.
Mardi Gras.
I should have known for sure. Uptown Route or French Quarter?
Uptown for life, baby.
Amen.
Gumbo or jambalaya?
I'm a gumbo guy.
Crawfish or crabs?
Crawfish, but I do both. I'm actually doing a crab boil that I'm hosting at my house this weekend, so
Nice.
I boil them both
Nice. Raw oysters or char grilled?
raw.
That was a passionate question about Luka. He put that one in there. Sorry.
You heard? Did you see me take a breath?
I knew. I was afraid he might answer wrong. So.
Po' boys or muffalata?
Poor boys.
King cake or traditional or filled?
I got to go traditional. I'm still kind of a Mackenzie's guy where it's just a little bit of
Oh,
sugar.
yeah,
babe.
So good.
Just a little bit of sugar on there.
Neutral ground or sidewalk side?
Sidewalk side. I lived 3 doors off the route for 8 years, and I said we were sidewalk side, that whole time, and I've always kind of been a sidewalk side guy.
Who came up with this? Throwing beads or catching?
I mean, throwing. I mean, throwing.
I didn't call it. That was,
I love
that's a great
that.
question, but I can't take credit for that.
I love that.
As Madison's in the background giving us the high hands. So
What is the best Mardi Gras food?
Best Mardi Gras food. I think short answer would be Popeyes. You know, when you show up at that
My
house,
man.
when you show up at that house and you get that smell of Popeyes and somebody like just biked over there,
so good.
you're like, oh yeah, that's it. I can jump on this. I used to host a crawfish boil at our house right off the route every year. So crawfish was always like a good food when you show up at a house right after parade and there's a ton of crawfish. Oh man, that's perfect.
And I gotta pause for a minute too because
I want to say something
we
too.
we
so
gotta this
I'm passionate about
hot early morning fried Popeyes chicken.
this. Oh my god.
It's hard to beat. But man, when you've been drinking and somebody runs up to you on the float and says, enjoy, and hands you something, it's no telling what it would be. And you eat it, that's carnival food. You know what I mean?
Let me say this real quick. And Popeyes
Love
would
it.
100% support everything I'm saying. If you can wait for 2.5 hours for a meal that you pre-ordered that was supposed to be ready at 9 and it's 10:30 and you're still waiting, that's the testament to it. And I will pick Popeye staff against any other staff when it comes to brawling. They are the Tucks of the fast food chains. 100% rolling frats. That's the people I want in my back. Give me a chicken biscuit or a biscuit any day of the week. So
favorite New Orleans restaurant?
I gotta go Commander's Palace if I'm going fancy. I love a good lunch at Commander's Palace. Good 25-cent martini. You know,
Heck yeah.
maybe get some Gentilly gin in there, but
my man.
But they're not serving that up for 25 cents. No way.
Nah.
But if I'm going just straight New Orleans meal,
That's New Orleans staple right there.
and that's my dress up staple probably. But if it's just a Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday afternoon, you can find me at Frankie and Johnny's, and they know me by name.
There you go.
Very good.
Does.
Last one New Orleans tradition you could never live without.
Go Cups.
Whew.
Go Cups.
That is a solid answer right there. I don't know what I would have said for that one. All right, final.
A Go Cup to go.
Oh my God.
To go. It could be a daiquiri or
You don't
it
know
could
what a
be an
to-go
old
cup is?
fashioned.
Just like the open container.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know y'all called it.
All right.
And look, says the guy who just got back from Europe, and you got to pay individually for refills in a can. And they're like, "What do you mean? You leaving with it?"
Or you go up to a coffee place and say you'd like coffee to go. If looks would have tilled, I'd have been dead 10 times over. And of course my family wouldn't do it. So we got one more question and then we'll move on. So
Yep, that's for the rapid fire. So,
Yeah.
if you could pour one drink for someone who has never been to New Orleans, and say, "This is what our city tastes like," what are you pouring? Not to put you on the spot.
We got Sazerac.
attaboy.
You
Good
know.
answer.
Yeah, I think Sazerac's got to be it. Ironically, this is a true story. My dad's best friend in high school, and still to this day, his grandfather was Henry Ramos of the Ramos Gin
Yeah,
Fizz.
Ramos Gin Fizz.
So, my dad was a big Gin Fizz fan because his best friends, they always had Gin Fizzes everywhere, every Christmas and all that stuff. But, so anyway, I would still stick with the Sazerac. What does New Orleans taste like? It's a Sazerac.
Well, look, Adam, I can't thank you enough. King Adam Lambert. Can't thank you enough for coming and spending some time with us. Like, this has been a great conversation. Learned a lot about not only your personal history, but a lot of history in New Orleans, which we love to teach here at the distillery. Truly value the partnership, truly value you personally and the belief that you have in us. And we wish you nothing but the success and all that comes with it. And of course, Hail Tucks.
Hail Tucks.
Amen. All right.
Look, thank you again for having me here. And it wouldn't have been possible for us to raise as much money as we did this year without you guys. And one thing that people watching at home might not know is that y'all kicked in an additional amount over what we had talked about.
Yeah.
And all of that money went back to charitable foundations. And it's just amazing. And the work that we're trying to do for the community stems from our love of partying and our love of drinking bourbon, comes from you guys, and that money just goes back to help everybody in the city.
Well,
Cheers to
thank
that.
you for mentioning that. And yeah, I mean, when you've got a partnership of drinking bourbon, I don't know where you can go wrong. So anyway, look, make sure you go out, you get to Tucks, whether it's uptown, downtown, left, right, sidewalk side, driver side. It is a true party, a frat party on wheels. So make sure you go join it and make sure you wave to Adam. So cheers.
Become friends with the crew members. You just might get a bottle.
There you go.
Members enjoy a range of exciting perks, from free drinks to exclusive releases. Become a member today.
Welcome back. Dude, that was a great interview. He's a solid dude. And look, I was saying off camera, like the biggest dork in the world, biggest nerd. I know stupid stuff that nobody ever cares about. I had no idea about the history of auctions all the way going back from the French. I mean, we talk all the time about bourbon and its history in Louisiana versus Kentucky and all that. Like, just a great interview. Unbelievable partnership. Even better guy. So
Extremely captivating. I'm sitting here listening to him talk about stories, and I'm putting myself back. And then back when we used to get everything by water, and he's talking about the French coming in with all their furniture, and they couldn't fit it into the house and auction it off. That's stuff people need to know about. That's stuff that puts you in a certain place. And then when you're pouring bourbon with it, man, they just get it.
yeah. And look, I mean, the partnership that he's provided, I mean, like all the stuff we talked about, he came here. We forgot to ask, but I don't even remember how he heard about us. I think they just reached out, or a mutual acquaintance. But yeah, I mean, before he was
It
king,
wasn't me.
it wasn't. Yeah, I think he just, it's kind of, again, talking about our growth. People hear about us. He mentioned that, people from Switzerland, Canada, and all over the world now. But that's a guy who lives what he preaches, right? He came back from Hawaii. He wanted to support New Orleans. He had roots here, and then he could pick from any bourbon place in the world. They would love to have him. 2,800 members, I think, is what he said.
Yep.
And bourbon is one of their 4 core values, as he like the 4 Bs.
Yep.
Anybody would want that organization to be picking a barrel from them. And now we're back-to-back years doing that. Solid guy, genuinely great person. The organization's fantastic. They're raising a lot of charitable funds. Just all around great.
Joe, I ain't gonna lie. You remember setting them up? I gave you like 10 dates, and you asked for more, and I'm like, Jesus, I said, how many more dates?
I
you
know,
got?
yeah.
But that's a busy man,
He is.
entrepreneur, businessman in the city of New Orleans, and I've become dear friends with him. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, man, he is the head of an organization that's making moves, making things happen, movers and shakers of the city.
Yeah, you're right. I kind of did forget about how hard it was to connect, but look, he said it best, and that's the one thing we can relate to, you specifically, Jeff specifically. The life of an entrepreneur, there is no off day. There is, if you're awake, you're working, kind of thing. So again, awesome job all around, and well done. A couple quick things. You mentioned Louisiana Rum Day. Super excited about that. We did a barrel reserve rum. We had the Louisiana finished rum. Anything else you want to talk about that in terms of the fact that Louisiana has designated this as a day that we need to represent each year?
I always tell you to back up and think about what makes rum rum. The rum we drinking nowadays, there's no specific rules that makes it rum like bourbon,
Right.
for the most part, outside of coming off the stills, no higher than 189 proof.
Yeah.
There's artificial flavorings can go into it. Artificial colorings can go into it. We make a Louisiana rum with Louisiana molasses, Louisiana raw sugar from Lulu Westfield Farms, and we're proud to say that. We enjoy it, respect it for what it is, and we look forward to seeing how it turns out of the barrel.
Yeah.
You know,
And you mentioned all the other stuff. I mean, there's a million rums on the market. We are authentically Louisiana. We
Yep.
use local ingredients. We support local organizations, local companies. We take a lot of pride in that. And I think that Louisiana has designated a day. That's a nod to us and all the other great distilleries in the state that are doing great rum. So we have that pick out. We've got some other picks here locally, and then I'm going to kind of tease and get you to announce the next one. But what other picks do we have out of
yeah, we got the rum finish.
Yep.
Obviously, we got the Calvados finish, weeded Calvados finish. We have the Lucas pick, which sought after, man. People come out here to go on vacation on Lucas pick to post that empty bottle and say, man, this bottle is crushable, which is ultimately our goal. We still have a few of the Nancy's picks. What is the Nancy's pick? It's the weeded cognac finish, the unworldly pick that finished with a double gold. in San Francisco this year. So, and we even have a barrel reserve gin and a barrel reserve rum out there.
Yeah.
So you have a variety to pick from when you visit the city, and visit the distillery, and what tickles your fancy, man.
Yeah. And we've got, if I'm not mistaken, we're close to picking the next barrel reserve rice whiskey. Do y'all have it narrowed? What is it? 2 barrels, 3 barrels? Y'all have it narrowed down to?
And Steens and honey.
You beat me to it. So the big one that everybody has been excited about, I again, people reach out in different ways. If I get asked one more time when the Louisiana Steens is coming out, it is this month. Super excited about that project. It's coming within the next week, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, right? Why do you think that one, people love that one so much?
Bro, it's total Louisiana.
Yeah.
Totally Louisiana. People they're starving for something new. Man, they're looking to share. We're right on the edge of fall. Fall is sit around a fire, sip bourbon time, smoke a cigar, Share the stories of what makes bourbon bourbon. Share the stories of what makes whiskey tree whiskey tree.
Yep.
I encourage you to pick up a bottle, take it to your friends, and talk about what makes it what it is.
Yep. And look, so real quick, again, I'll take responsibility, drop the ball in terms of letting our members know about the Louisiana Rum Drop. This was something we did literally at the last second. We found out that Louisiana Rum Day was going to be a big event for the city. We had this kind of queued up in a different project, and we're like, what better way to do it? So we kind of rolled it out fast. For members, you absolutely have a bottle saved if you want it. We set aside cases for all of the members we have, and we've got a ton of members, all that's set aside. The Louisiana Steens pick. Members, be on the lookout for emails. It is coming soon. You are going to get it. Members always get it. Remember, 48-hour advance notice on any purchase that we do. We do not restrict how many bottles you buy. You get first crack at it. You can buy as many as you want. You get the 20% off, as well as all the other discounts that happen. And then we kind of tease and we give you a heads up on what's coming next. So be on the lookout for that. This podcast, eventually, we're getting close, is going to be a live podcast. We want to invite people here. We're going to start throwing parties. So be on the lookout with social media. Our social media our team does a great job. Madison, Matt, who's on the camera right now, they do fantastic work.
Even when I wear these bright shirts.
Even when Matt right now, y'all can't see. Matt's glaring. I got props, actually. I wore the right shirt, straight coincidence.
Rule follower.
I'm throwing Matt under the bus in this, and he's chuckling behind. What did he say? He's gonna burn your shirt if he had the opportunity to do it. I'm reporting his ass to HR.
That's right.
All right, perfect. So you're good, Matt. We ain't gonna report you to HR, even though HR is probably watching. But I'll make sure you're good. She might agree. Yeah, she might be on the same side as you. Well played. So look, we got some fun projects. Be on the lookout for social media. Come stop by the distillery. We do tours 7 days a week, 5-6 times a day. We got the bottle and your own experience. We got a ton of events coming up. If you're interested in doing an event here at the distillery, whether it's a Christmas party or whatever the case may be, reach out to us via our website, 73distilling.com, 73distilling.com. All spelled out, no numbers, 73distilling.com. So, all right, Luka, it's great right now. Every time you come and see me, it's something new, a new single barrel, a new vendor. Exciting times.
Very exciting times, especially when you have things happen that happened to me today that I didn't even share with you. And you know what? I'm going to give you a little teaser.
Tease me.
Y'all know I've been in Croatia for the past, month. And I had some meetings set up. I met with some mayors. It was like a light switch went off today. They must have all sent out emails because I had writers reaching out to me from Dubrovnik, wanting to hear the story, wanting to know what we're doing, the history of where and how it ties into Pelly shots, the Napa of Croatia. And I look forward to sharing that with you.
That sounds like some stuff we can talk about on episode number 6.
Just happened today.
All right, so while y'all were talking, I did finish all my bourbon. Looks like you might have it, but cheers, brother. Thanks for everything that you're doing. Great team. Take us away.
Hey, when y'all ready for a pour, y'all come meet me at the tree.